Welcome to Small Steps. My name's Seth Potts and I want to show you how to use a checkbox to change conditional formatting. So I ran across this tip. It just happened to coincide with a project that came up and just kind of worked its way in there um, and thought it was a pretty good use for this. So it's not something I would use too often in my day-to-day work, but we had a situation where in our jurisdiction, we have quite a few complaints that come in about traffic, whether it be speeders or sometimes specific vehicles times a day. Sometimes it's just people wanting extra patrol in their neighborhoods at nights if there's been a string of auto burglaries, things like that. So we have a list, and size of our city, it's fairly small, so we have a lot of repeat areas. And what we decided to do was have a shared spreadsheet that our patrol commander can go in and, based on what feedback we've gotten from our citizens, it could check a few places on here to indicate where we would like to send our officers out to spend some extra time when they're between dispatch calls. So we have this list. This one's just a short and made up list here. Not always specific street numbers. Sometimes it's intersections or just area in general. We typically have some notes explaining what the specific complaint is, but just short and just see how it works. Just have a couple items here, and you can see how it functions. I have a checkbox to see if it's active or not. And when you check it and uncheck it, it changes the coloring of it. So for our purposes, what we use, they can flip in here real quick and see that it's green. Those are the areas that our sergeants will look at and say, yep, this is where we're going to be spending some extra time. So a couple things for this. First thing you're going to need to know or have on here is this developer tab. So if you do not have the developer tab, you're going to go over to File and go down to Options. And then on this left menu here, you're going to go down to Customize Ribbon. And then you'll see this grouping over here. If you do not have that tab, it probably means this is unchecked. So if it is unchecked, go ahead and check it and click OK. And you should have that up at the top now. So the first thing we're going to do is create the checkbox. So we're going to go into that developer tab and go under the controls section. It's Insert. And see on the form controls, this top portion, you can see the checkbox there. So you click on it, it gives you this little plus sign. And I'll go ahead and start it down here. We can move it wherever we would like. And you see it comes with a little label, whatever checkbox number it is on there. I typically delete the label. You can always keep it there and rename it whatever you want, but I kind of shrink it down just to the box and try to put it where I think it should go. So now you see I have this checkbox. It doesn't do anything at this point. What a checkbox does, however, is pretty much checked is true, unchecked is false. So once we get the checkbox there, you can right click on it and go down to Format Control. And this menu comes up on the control section, the last tab over here, you see the cell link. And what cell do we want this linked to? In our case, we have this column here, which later on we'll probably just hide just so it's not necessarily showing with the true and false and all that. So we want this one linked to, where is it, G6. So we want it on this cell right next to the checkbox there. Click OK. You see that pops in true. And now we have a functioning checkbox with a field that indicates true and false. So at this point, we still need to add the conditional formatting. So what we're going to do, I'm going to highlight the area that I want formatted and go back to the Home tab and come up here to conditional formatting and go to New Rule. Now on this list, we're going to go down to the Use a Formula to determine which cells to format. So essentially what we're going to say is equals if, and we're going to do a $sign there, and G6, G6, and the $sign basically keeps G like set for that G, keeps it absolute. The 6, we don't put a $sign between those two because the 6, essentially when we copy this formatting down, we want that to be able to go down in the rows below. So $sign G6, and if you're starting up at the top, it'll be whatever row you're on, G2. So if that cell it equals true, so if there's true in that box, keep it true. So simple right there. And then what we want to do is right here, click that format button, and whatever you want it to be formatted like. You can do all sorts of stuff with different fonts, different bold, italic, or sizes. There's quite a few things, options you could do here. For this, it's simply just changing the color of it. So in the font, pick like that dark green. The fill, just done a light green background. So those are the two that I want, and I'll show you a little preview here of what it'll look like. If you like that, go ahead and click OK. Now you see that works, and you might just leave it like this if you don't want the other color for false. If you just want, if it's unchecked, just to be that white background, you could stop there. If you want additional formatting, you can go in and do that same process over again. Go to the new, and then we're going to start off the same way, equals if $sign G6 equals false this time. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not quite sure why we put true there. I just tinkered around, and this is the one that works. So I'm assuming it's saying if this is false, true that we want this formatting. That's the way I looked at it, at least. So it's pretty similar to the other one, but we come here, go to format, the fill. I'm going to say just that kind of orangey pink, and then the font, change that to dark red or whatever you would like for it. Get your little preview there. Click OK. And now you have that where you can check it on and off. And what I typically do is go ahead and hide that column with the true false. It just makes it look a little cleaner there. And what I'll do is just highlight that and do this format painter and highlight the row beneath it. Now it's not connected to anything at this point, but you can actually right click, or it actually highlights that, and Control C, so copy and paste. Now currently this is still connected to that row above, so you see when I check that, it'll work with that row above, but all you'd have to do is come in and go to that format control and change that from the cell it's linked to, from G6 to G7. If it will do that here. Oh, and it's thinking, okay, there it goes. G6 to G7. And now it is separate there. So you kind of get this set up, and it's a little easier after that initial setup to just do the format painter down in other rows. If you found this tutorial helpful and would like to see more, click like and subscribe. The next video coming up is going to be over calculating z-scores.